Hello everybody, welcome to another Valheim video. Today you're going to learn how progression works in vanilla Valheim. By the end of this video, you'll know what every boss progression item is and exactly when the different building materials become available in an average playthrough. We'll be covering the early and the middle game progression. Endgame progression hasn't been finished yet, so that'll be a video after Deep North comes out. Let's get to it. The first progression item is dropped by Eikthyr, the first boss of the game, quite easy to kill. When you kill Eikthyr, you're going to get the Hard Antlers. The Hard Antlers serves one purpose and one purpose only. It allows you to create an antler pickaxe, which is actually a very useful item even later on in the game, and I'll tell you why soon. This first pickaxe is a big deal because it allows you to start digging down into the terrain so you can make holes just like this. And even better, it allows you to start harvesting stone. But you won't be able to build with stone yet. We're gonna get to that later. The progression of the antler pickaxe doesn't end with stone though. It actually enables you to get copper and tin ore. Tin ore can be found near the waterline in the Black Forest, and you'll need either a troll or this pickaxe in order to mine it. In addition to tin, the antler pickaxe also allows you to start mining copper, which you'll find in the Black Forest. There are these very large rocks here, and with some patience, you'll be able to get some copper with this crappy little pickaxe. But in order to actually smelt these ores, we're gonna need the next progression item, which can be found in any of these burial chambers. Once you go inside a burial chamber, with some patience and some luck, you're gonna find Surtling Cores. But you won't be able to progress with one Surtling Core. In fact, you're gonna need 5 and ideally 10. Once you have your Surtling Cores, you're ready to enter the Bronze Age. This will allow you to create 2 very important items, the smelter and the kiln. You can fill the kiln with wood, and then it's going to produce coal out of the wood. This coal will then be used for the rest of the game to smelt ore into metal in this smelter or later on in the blast furnace. Doing so is going to net you some copper and some tin. And at this point, you unlock a whole bunch of new things that you can craft using metals. To begin, you'll build a workbench, and then you'll need 4 stone, 4 coal, 10 wood, and 6 copper. This is going to allow you to place a forge. The forge unlocks a whole bunch of different things. So let's get started with one of the most useful that you'll be using a lot, the cauldron. Once you manage to smelt 10 tin, then you'll be able to make a cauldron. And this is an item that you're going to be using regularly in the game because it's the main way that you acquire food. Food itself is an incredibly important part of the Valheim experience. But this video today will only cover the build items and the basic progression. Speaking of incredible experiences, have you ever wanted to rent your own dedicated Valheim server? Well, consider using my sponsor, Zap Hosting. I've been using Zap Hosting for Valheim servers for multiple years. Having a dedicated Valheim server is an incredible way to continue enjoying Valheim, and it really helps add that depth once you get tired of the single-player Valheim experience. But for now, let's get back to the video. In addition to allowing you to build a cauldron nearby, you can actually craft on the forge as long as it's under shelter. So just give it a roof, and then you'll be able to access some new crafting items. The most important one of which is bronze, which you can craft with 1 tin and 2 copper. Making bronze is going to allow you to craft the next major progression item. You'll need to combine some bronze with some regular wood and some core wood from some of these really tall trees in the Black Forest. In addition to that, you'll need to kill a boar and get some leather scraps. After that, you'll be able to create the bronze axe, an important progression item. In addition to the bronze axe, there's a bunch of other bronze stuff that you'll be able to build, and even some later on build pieces. But for now, we're going to focus on these bronze nails. Crafting these unlocks a bunch of other things. Most important of which is the cart. This is going to be your best friend in Valheim, especially if you're dealing with these vanilla Valheim inventory limitations. Just ignore these quality of life mods that I have here. Your inventory is going to look like this in vanilla. It's very small and it fills up very fast. But that's where the cart comes in. You get some more storage and you can fill your whole cart up, and then you can just bring everything with you, just like the burdens you drag along since your childhood. Except you'll find the cart to be very useful and a huge time saver. Much better than running back and forth with metal and ore. There's a variety of other things that bronze is useful for, but for now we're going to move forward in the progression. After you've created your bronze axe, now you're ready to start chopping some of those white trees that you saw earlier in the meadows. These trees, birch trees as they are known, cannot be chopped down with a stone or a flint axe. You have to either get trolls to hit them or use the bronze axe, which is the typical go-to method. Either way, once you fell one of these trees, you're going to unlock the next progression item, which is Finewood. Finewood is absolutely important for a wide variety of furniture, build items, and a really nice bow. The Finewood bow is one of the most powerful early game items, and some people even beat the rest of the game with this thing. It's incredibly useful, it's cheap to upgrade, and it's very easy to repair. Compared to the crude bow that you make in the very beginning of the game, you'll notice that it fires significantly further. This is going to be very useful to allow you to hunt deer more easily and acquire that deer hide, which will also be useful for a lot of different building and crafting items in the game. So now that you've got your bronze axe, you've got a Finewood bow, we're ready to move on to the Elder's progression item. The Elder is the boss of the Black Forest, and once you've burned him or killed him in your favorite method of choice, he's going to drop the next major progression item, the Crypt Key. Or rather, the Swamp Key. At this point, you're probably going to need to use some of those bronze progression items from earlier, because chances are you don't have a swamp close to your current position. You're going to need to sail. To get started sailing, you'll need to build a carve using all of the progression items that we've talked about so far. The Finewood, deer hide, resin, bronze nails, and a workbench. This will allow you to create my favorite boat, the Carve. The Carve is a relatively slow ship by Valheim standards, but it turns incredibly easily. You can think of it as a river boat, allowing you to turn on a dime and dodge all of these rocks that are often in the coast. This boat is much more comfortable than sailing on a raft, which often ends up being a temporary situation. The Carve excels in coastal waters and in rivers, but you'll find that it is kind of hard to control out in the open ocean. Eventually, you'll get lucky and you'll be able to find a swamp. But before you actually start adventuring in the swamp, there's a really important progression item that you should know about. And that's your friend, the portal. To make one portal, you'll need 2 Surtling Cores, 20 Finewood, and 10 Grey Dwarf Eyes. But for a portal to function, it needs 2 parts, so realistically, you'll need 20 Grey Dwarf Eyes, 40 Finewood, and 4 Surtling Cores. Once you build these 2 portals, this will allow you to realistically navigate the swamp more easily. And this portal dynamic will become an incredibly huge part of your gameplay experience moving forward. I personally despise portals and think that Valheim is a much better game without them, but people hate me for that opinion, so I'm gonna assume that you're one of those portal loving freaks. Just like the rest of them. Either way, eventually you're gonna find yourself a sunken crypt in the swamp. This dungeon's different than the other ones because you actually need this key in order to open it. If I don't have the key in my inventory, you can see that I am not able to get inside the dungeon. So once you get in, you'll have access to the Iron Age. Make sure to bring a pickaxe because you're going to be coming out of this crypt with some iron, and this is often a turning point for people. They love iron. It's generally people's favorite metal. I personally prefer to do crypts with an Antler pickaxe because you can repair them at a workbench, but many people are going to choose to use a bronze pickaxe, and that's fine too. Just keep in mind, you can only repair a bronze pickaxe at a forge. But considering you use portals, that's not really that much of a problem. Just make sure to always have that pocket portal with you to get back to your base, and you'll be able to repair everything you can imagine. As you explore the sunken crypt, you'll find these muddy scrap piles. Mining these scrap piles will net you some scrap iron, some withered bone, and some leather scraps. Right now, we care about this scrap iron. You can smelt the scrap iron in the exact same way that you smelted the bronze earlier. Just get some coal and then toss it in the smelter. And then congratulations, you've now entered the Iron Age. This arc here is generally considered the peak of the Valheim experience. So don't feel like you have to rush further on into progression. Many people find that they really enjoy the meadows and black forest part of the game. And there's loads of players who never even make it past the swamps because they have so much fun just building and making things in what the game already has to offer. There are loads of different items that you can make using iron. We're going to focus on the iron nails. For 1 iron bar, you'll be able to make 10 iron nails out of forge. These iron nails serve a variety of uses, allowing you to build a couple different things, but the main thing is the long ship. You'll need 100 iron nails, 10 deer hide, 40 finewood, and 40 ancient bark. Ancient bark's nothing special. You can just cut down those trees in the swamp, and that's how you get it. You don't need anything fancy to do it. This boat is the boat for Valheim. It's fast, stable, has a lot of space for multiple players, and has a cart-sized inventory storage. The best thing about boats is that there's no weight limit. You could fill this whole boat up with iron and metal, and it wouldn't weigh the boat down at all. You're going to be filling your boat up with scrap iron and various things, because you can't take them through your portals, you silly goose. And that's going to be a big part of the game moving forward. Eventually, you'll be ready to move on to the next biome in progression, the mountain. Once you're feeling strong enough, you'll need to locate the boss of the swamp by finding this crazy looking skull here. Then you'll be able to fight Bonemass. Killing Bonemass will give you the Wishbone. And with the Wishbone, you're ready to head off into the mountains. However, keep in mind the mountains are very cold. So technically there's a little bit of preparation and progression that you'll need to do to prepare. Otherwise, you're just gonna freeze to death as soon as you go into the mountain. This is where the fermenter comes in, which is built with earlier progression items, finewood, bronze, resin, and a forge. You'll also need to use another progression item, the mead kettle. The fermenter and the mead kettle will allow you to produce these frost resistance meads, which will enable you to explore the mountain without taking any kind of damage from the cold, no matter what you're wearing. As you progress, you'll find various items that give you this same effect. So there's other ways to resist the cold, but I'm not going to go into detail. We're going to cut straight to the chase, the Wishbone. Make sure to equip the Wishbone as you explore the mountain. Look around, particularly in high peaks, and you're going to hear this beeping noise and see this animation on your character. That means there's some silver nearby, the next piece of our progression puzzle. Eventually, you'll find yourself with some silver ore, and all you have to do is put it back in that same smelter from earlier, using some coal, and congratulations, you've now entered the Silver Age. Unlike iron and bronze, silver doesn't allow you to build very many build objects, but it does allow you to build certain things like the butcher's table, and with the obsidian that you find in the mountain, you'll also be able to build some other extensions, such as the tool shelf. Obsidian itself is actually a very useful item in Valheim, because they'll allow you to make these frost arrows, which I would argue is the most useful weapon in the entire game. If you play your cards right, these frost arrows can carry you all the way to the Ashlands. They are incredibly useful. In general, frost arrows make the plains much more palatable, because when you hit an enemy with a frost arrow, you slow them down, and this is very, very useful. Never underestimate how powerful these things are. As you can see, they slow the enemy down so much that you can just keep unloading shots into them, and there's not much that the enemy can do about it. But for now, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because before you go off adventuring in the plains, you need to fight the boss of the mountains, arguably the single most rewarding part of progression. Explore the mountains enough, and eventually you'll find one of these crazy things here. And by bringing 3 dragon eggs, you'll be able to summon Motor herself. There she is. I love Motor. She's my favorite boss by far. Love the design. And it's just so cool seeing a big flying dragon. Either way, eventually you're gonna kill her. And once you manage to do so, you're gonna get a bunch of these dragon tears. And this is a huge part of the building progression. The dragon tiers will allow you to build an artisan table. And this is when building is truly unlocked in Valheim. Now you'll be able to make a blast furnace, a spinning wheel, a windmill, and stone ovens, allowing you to bake some really powerful food. In addition to all of these items, being able to make the blast furnace means you'll be able to smelt the black metal scrap that's dropped by the goblins. This will give you access to black metal. There's no black metal armor, but there are a bunch of black metal weapons and black metal tools such as the black metal axe. Black metal will also be important later on because it'll allow us to make the Galder table and the refinery and a couple other things which we'll need black metal for. So make sure that you get a decent amount of those black metal bars. You're going to be needing them later. The windmill combined with the oven are what allow you to make some of these higher tier foods, and then by putting flax in the spinning machine, you'll get linen thread, which is how you make the armor for the plains tier. The plains actually uses linen thread and iron for its armor set, the padded armor. Once you feel powerful enough, you'll be ready to take on the boss of the goblins, Yagluth. Killing Yagluth will give you access to the next progression item, the Torn Spirit. Although to be honest, this is the least important progression item out of them all, because technically you don't need it. This is going to allow you to create a Wisplight, which is an equipable item that essentially clears the mist around your character as you run forward. However, it doesn't actually delete the mist. And as you can see here, there are actually a decent amount of places in the Mistland that don't have any mist if you look hard enough. This is why, technically, this is the least required progression item. It's a soft requirement, not a hard one. Either way, eventually you'll find yourself in the Mistlands, ready to start engaging in some magic. At this point, we've entered what I would consider the end game of Valheim. The Mistlands, the Ashlands, and the Deep North. So there you have it. Now you know the basics of how progression works in Vanilla Valheim up until the end game. But don't worry, most players don't even get this far, so probably I've already covered everything you actually need to know. Alternatively, if you want to support my work, then consider renting your own dedicated Valheim server at zaphosting.com/jpvalheim. Additionally, you could consider trying out Enigma Mode, which is a completely overhauled version of Valheim that I've been working on for over a year. It's an open source project that over 200 other people have helped me playtest and develop features for. It's an incredibly fun overhaul of the game, and I would absolutely love it if you check it out. The craziest thing about Enigma Mode is it is vanilla compatible. That means you can put Enigma Mode on a server, and you can play it on Xbox, you can play it on Mac, you can play it on PlayStation. Yeah, I know, you don't believe me, but it's true. Once you get comfortable with Valheim and you start to get a little bit bored of it, I strongly encourage you to check out Enigma Mode. You can think of it as New Game Plus for Valheim, especially if you've got a couple friends who would like to play it with you. And if you really enjoy Enigma Mode, then consider supporting me on Patreon, because this has been a full-time job for me for over a year, and I earn pennies per hour. So anything that you're willing to do to contribute makes a big difference in my life, and it helps keep me motivated. Because to be honest, I don't earn enough money from this YouTube channel to sustain this existence, and I have gone into debt in order to do what I do for the Valheim community. And that has placed a great burden upon my life, so I'm not completely sure if I'll be able to continue doing this. But I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that that happens. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!